Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the NoDQ.com live recap of Monday Night Raw for October the 4th, 2021. This was night 2 of the 2021 WWE Draft. We had a few interesting moves, but this was Monday Night Raw, 3-hour show, a lot to discuss. Shout out to everybody watching, whether it's live, participating in the chat room, or watching on demand. Thank you for your viewership and support. And if you do like this video, as always, please consider giving it a thumbs up on YouTube and just spread the word. Tell a friend about the channel and, of course, NoDQ.com. Now, we started Raw with the man, Becky Lynch. Becky came down to the ring, back on Raw for the first time since she had her maternity leave. She said it feels pretty good to be back. Then she dropped a spoiler. She said she is the first pick for the night. She is officially back on Monday Night Raw, although it wasn't official because Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville did not officially announce anything. She said that she never lost the Raw title, thinks it's time to once again become Becky 2 belts. That's when the Raw Women's Champion, who is now on SmackDown, Charlotte Flair, arrived and said talked about the history, said before Charlotte came along, Becky was just on the pre-show, said they had unfinished business, and that's when Bianca Belair arrived, and she brought up the cheap shots that were taken at her on SmackDown this past Friday. Charlotte said the champs are trying to have a conversation. Bianca said that Charlotte's not even on Raw anymore. What is she doing there? And Becky, being the little instigator, suggested that maybe they have a match. And then Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville made it official for the main event of Raw. Charlotte Flair versus Bianca Belair, first time ever. Would it have a clean finish, though? You have to wait and watch the entire review here to find out. All right, guys, let's talk about the first round of draft picks. Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville did, in fact, confirm that Becky Lynch is back on Monday Night Raw to try and get the championship back that she never lost, even though Charlotte has it. No surprise here with Becky going to Raw. Usos drafted to SmackDown. And by the way, how anticlimactic was this? They made a really big deal on Friday. You know, I was intrigued about like Paul Heyman and the Usos, and maybe they would do some interesting segments, but there was like nothing. They just announced it, and Heyman was backstage with the Usos, and yeah, I was really let down by this. I thought they were going to do more with this, but they did not. Like, they could have made it a show-long storyline. And I get it. The Usos get drafted right away, whatever. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen more here with that, but whatever. Bobby Lashley drafted to Raw. Absolutely no surprise. Figured he would be on Raw once Drew McIntyre got drafted to SmackDown. And then Sasha Banks drafted to SmackDown. Not really a surprise. I pretty much expected that once Becky was drafted to Raw. Hamp Connell sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you very much for that, Hamp. I appreciate it. It says, the writers just have no idea what they are or what they're doing. They're just oblivious to everything. By the way, the first segment was a pile of garbage. I mean, I wouldn't say it was garbage, but I'm just not that invested in what Becky's doing at this point. Like, the heel character, I'm not feeling it. Like, it's not making me want to boo her. It's just kind of turning me off the product. And Charlotte is Charlotte. You know, she can perform in the ring, but again, I kind of get that, man, I just want to change my channel when she's out there talking all the time. And they just do these long, drawn-out talking segments. And then when they do wrestle, there's shenanigans. And we'll get to that in a few minutes here. Caleb Jacobs with a $3.14 super chat. Thank you, Caleb. Says, best part of the show is Goldberg. Goldberg. Well, Caleb, I'm not sure how many people would agree with you on that one, but maybe you have a point. Maybe it's a sad state of affairs when Goldberg is one of the highlights of Monday Night Raw in 2021. First round of the draft, no surprises. All right, so next up, we had our first match of the evening. We had Jeff Hardy versus Damian Priest. Jeff Hardy's on SmackDown. I guess until after Crown Jewel, anybody can appear on any show. It's just a free-for-all. Not a very long match here. Priest had some early momentum, and then Hardy hit the Whisper in the Wind. Priest kicked out of that. Hardy hit the Twist of Fate, went for the Swanton, hit the Swanton, but hesitated just a little bit. He went for the pinfall, and not only did Priest kick out, but Priest rolled up. He countered it into a pinfall and pinned Jeff Hardy. After the match, there was a show of sportsmanship between the two of them, and then Jeff Hardy was interviewed in the ring. He said, SmackDown might be a perfect opportunity to see a different side of Jeff Hardy, a different ego. Now, this was perhaps a reference to Willow, his old persona, alter ego that he was doing in Impact Wrestling. There was an interview he did, and you can check out the quote on NoDQ.com. He basically said that he's going to bring back Willow before he retires. We'll see if this is what's going to happen, if he's going to go on SmackDown and turn into Willow. Darren sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you very much for that, Darren. I appreciate it. Says, Aaron, I did not get to watch Raw because I just got home, but Carla told me to watch your review to support the channel. Go NoDQ.com. Appreciate that, and best wishes to Carla. Hopefully she's doing okay. And we had Jeff Hardy interrupted by Austin Theory. Now, Austin Theory was coming out acting like a good guy and saying that he wasn't there to disrespect. He grew up watching Jeff Hardy, just wanted a selfie. And I'm thinking, man, Jeff Hardy, you're a veteran. You should know better. But of course, he took the selfie and then, well, he got attacked. And Austin Theory took a selfie with Jeff Hardy laid out on the mat. We'll see how things go for Austin Theory. This is round 2 for him. He was previously called up and then sent back to NXT last year. We'll see if this go around, now that there are fans in the arena, if that will work out better for him. We had RK Bro interviewed backstage, and Riddle said last week just sucked without Randy. Well, I think kind of every week sucks regardless of whether Randy's there or not. Although, to be fair, Raw has been better, well, was better last couple of weeks. Riddle did his usual blabbering, and Orton cut a serious promo and challenged Omos to a one-on-one match, and Riddle just had this shocked look on his face. We had our second round of the draft. Coming over to SmackDown, or actually coming over to Raw, we have Seth Rollins. Yes, Seth Rollins drafted from SmackDown to Raw. Once Becky was announced, I mean, that was a given. Heading over to SmackDown, King Nakamura and Rick Boogs. No surprise here, and no need to switch them. They're doing well on SmackDown. Why move them when it's not necessary? Damian Priest to Raw. Again, same thing applies. He's doing well. He's the U.S. champion. And Sheamus drafted to SmackDown, which makes sense. Sheamus has kind of been in a position of putting over people the last several weeks, and feels like he's been on Raw, but he hasn't really made a big impact. So I totally understand Sheamus going over to SmackDown. Tic Tat Tat thinks that Roman Reigns will bury Willow. He just might, but maybe Jeff Hardy gets one more main event if he busts out the Willow character. maybe it'll surprisingly be a success. I was never into the Willow character in Impact, so I'm not sure if it'll connect with the WWE universe, so to speak, but maybe it will. Maybe it'll be a big hit. Maybe they'll sell some action figures. Maybe Jeff Hardy's career will see a renaissance. Bringing back No More Words certainly did not help. I thought it would have, but, you know, when you book him that poorly, there's only so far he can go, even with the cool music. Next up, we had Shayna Baszler versus Dana Brooke. And you pretty much knew that this was not going to end well for Dana. Caleb Jacobs with a $3 super chat. Thank you, Caleb. Says, I am guessing Willow too, Aaron. All right, well, thank you for that, Caleb. I appreciate that. Corey Graves on commentary was just bashing Brooke, saying that she hasn't done much of anything, which is technically true, but man, you're just... you're doing commentary, you're told what to say. That's how they feel about Dana, even though the writers of the show, Vince, they're deciding what happens. But yeah, quick squash match here, basically. Shayna picked up the win, was going to do what she did to Eva Marie and Nia Jax, but then Doudrop made the save. And Doudrop made a rookie mistake, turned her back to Shayna. Shayna punched her in the back, but then Doudrop did not fall. She pretty much no-sold it, and Shayna backed off. So I guess we're seeing, well, before Crown Jewel at least, we'll see that match take place. Hamp Connell with the $2 super chat. Thank you, Hamp. Says, save WWE RAW. We need a contract signing. No, Hamp. Bad Hamp. Do not ever suggest that, because they will listen to you 100 out of 100 times. We had Paul Heyman backstage with the Usos, and Heyman said he's the warden of the Uso Penitentiary. He was kind of gloating that he got the job done, but then the interviewer, the guy with the accent, was saying, well, if that's the case, how come Brock Lesnar is a free agent? And the Usos, even though they knew this information, were suddenly very upset with Paul Heyman. Like I said, I was really disappointed with the usage of Paul Heyman and the Usos on this show. I wanted to see more of that storyline, play it out over the show, keep us engaged, but they just blew it off real quick. We had Ali and Mansoor versus Angel Garza and Humberto. And a pretty short match here, not much to say about it. Things quickly broke down, and Humberto on the outside of the ring, he was not legal. He sent Ali's head into the ring post, and then Angel picked up the win. So there you go. Nice job building up Ali and Mansoor heading into Crown Jewel. Like, you have a chance to actually do something with Mansoor and build him up for this pay-per-view, and you're, well, not doing it. All right, and now we have the third round of the draft. AJ Styles and Omos staying on Raw. Not really surprised. This one was a little bit of a surprise. Shayna Baszler to SmackDown. I'm intrigued about this one. She's got like a new lease of life on Raw. Why draft her? And you look at SmackDown, I suppose you could see Sasha Banks as the champion. Like, who's Shayna going after? Because Shayna's kind of a heel. Maybe not. Maybe she is a face. But this week it felt like she was a heel. I'm just confused who Shayna's going to feud with, because Becky's on Raw. Charlotte's a heel. But I guess you can do Charlotte versus Shayna. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't think it was necessary, but perhaps it'll suit Shayna well. And like I said, they'll have to do the Doudrop match within the next week or so. MVP Kev is happy she got drafted. And by the way, Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat. Haven't seen him in the chat tonight, but Walter, hopefully you're watching this at some point. You did send in a $5 super chat right when I signed off last Friday. So let me read this off, and it is related to what I just talked about. Walter said, Shayna should go on a run, destroy everyone, win the queen crown, and become a dominant champion after that would be badass for her. Yes, they are starting up that tournament, and I think Shayna's a great candidate to win it. She can win the women's tournament, and maybe Xavier Woods gets his King of the Ring moment, since he's the only New Day member to not win the world title. And Kevin Owens has been drafted to Raw, which I pretty much expected. If you go back to the last stream, people were thinking Owens was just being buried because he's maybe going to AEW, but I was like, well, he might just be going to Raw, and they're having him put over the guys on SmackDown on his way out. Xia Li from NXT has been drafted to SmackDown, and again, no surprise, she's been doing some dark matches as of late. Same thing with Austin Theory. Big E came down to the ring, and we had a really long segment followed by what I felt was like a really long match too. They did one of these things, promo turns into a match deal. So this is when Raw really started to drag for me. But I will give them a little bit of credit, and I'll explain why here in a second. Big E came to the ring for his celebration promo, beating Bobby Lashley, retaining the WWE title, and said there's good and bad news. His brothers, Kofi and Xavier, go into SmackDown, but the positive is that Lashley fell down to his knees, and then talked about McIntyre being the next challenger. McIntyre arrived and said, "It's a Drew day." Yes, it is. That was cringy. And Drew said that he has unfinished business on Raw, and he praised Big E, but after shaking his hand, said that he wants his title opportunity. And he challenged Big E, and that's when the Dirty Dogs arrived. Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. Even though they haven't been drafted, they can show up on the show. And I did like this because they referenced the history. Ziggler's mad because he's the guy that mentored Big E. He showed the footage from 2013 when Big E first debuted. And he said all he wants is a thank you. And he also brought up McIntyre. When McIntyre came back to Raw, Ziggler was in his corner. So now we get this feud again. And at one point, Bobby Roode started talking, said he's Big Bob. And Big E said not one person calls him Big Bob. And that is true. And Big E says he's not going to apologize, but the only thing he owes them is an ass whooping. And he proposed a tag team match. And Drew McIntyre was down with it, and Drew McIntyre called himself Big D. Yep, Big D. Big Bob, Big D, Big E, and Dolph Ziggler. So after the commercial break, we had a match. And, you know, it's pretty obvious who's winning this one, so hard to really care much about it. You know, McIntyre got sent into the ring post. The bad guys worked him over for a while. Pretty standard stuff. And then Big E got a hot tag. Went for the big ending, but Drew tagged himself in. Hit the Claymore to Ziggler. So kind of like the two guys fighting each other, teaming up. Guy steals the pin. You know, very, very typical stuff from WWE. And after the match, Roode got the big ending from Big E. And then Big D handed Big E the WWE Championship. And then Big E accepted the match with Big D for Crown Jewel, which doesn't end with an E. That will be for the WWE Championship. So there you go. And I think it's interesting because one would think Drew McIntyre is not going to be losing, but he kind of has to, right? Since he's going to SmackDown, and this is going to be the last night. Crown Jewel will be the last night before everybody's on their own brand. So, yeah, maybe Big E will actually get a clean win over Drew McIntyre. I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. We had Reggie, the 24/7 champion. This is still a thing, by the way. And you had everybody trying to chase after him again. R-Truth. And then you had a couple cameo appearances from the Viking Raiders. I mean, they were just standing there looking intimidating. Apollo Crews and General Aziz, they were just scouting everything. And Reggie eventually managed to get away from all the 24/7 jabronis. We then had Kevin Owens come to the ring, and he's now part of Raw. He was going to talk, but then Tozawa interrupted and said, basically, he welcomed Owens to Monday Night Raw, said he wants to fight Reggie for the 24/7 title, and, well, Owens just gave him a stunner. And that was that. So there you go. We had our next round of the draft picks. Street Profits going over to Raw from SmackDown. I'm fine with this. Again, expected it to happen once Bianca got drafted. Street Profits can now go back to making sense with the red cups because they went to SmackDown and they brought in the blue cups for a couple weeks and then went back to the red cups. Are blue cups really expensive or something compared to red cups? But yeah, at least now it'll make sense again with them having the red cups. Viking Raiders drafted to SmackDown. Makes sense. They haven't been doing shit on Raw. Gives them a new lease on life. Finn Balor drafted to Raw, and they did a little video package for him. One thing I don't like is that there's no follow-up to what happened at Extreme Rules. So I guess I have no idea what to even make of that finish. But yeah, I thought they would have some kind of storyline coming out of that, but nope. So yeah, finish goes down as far as what I thought of it, for those of you wondering. And then our final pick of this round, Ricochet, going to SmackDown from Raw. Which, good idea. Ricochet, another guy who has not been doing shit on Monday Night Raw. So you might as well give him a change of scenery on SmackDown. Maybe there's some hope for him. Next up, we had a rematch for the women's tag team titles. Nikki Ash, and Rhea Ripley against Natalya and Tamina. Pretty standard tag match here between them. They worked over Nikki for a while. Rhea got a hot tag. Nikki and Rhea were working together. Nikki did a crossbody to the outside on Natalya and Tamina. And then back in the ring, Rhea hit the riptide, and then Nikki got on top of Rhea and did a big splash, pinning Tamina. No surprise here. And we'll see what's next for the women's tag team champions. Maybe Shotzi and Tegan. Caleb Jacobs with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Caleb. Says, I was hoping for an AJ Lee reference like Dolph saying, didn't we have that one chick in Big East saying who Bruce Lee and Dolph was? No AJ Styles. They cut out a package. I did not see her at all. It was Dolph Ziggler and Big E. Didn't exist. So yeah, funny, but yeah, I don't think they're gonna go there at this point. Next up, we had Goldberg, Whisker Biscuit, Billy Boy, the Icon. Thought that was Sting's moniker, but they're using it for Goldberg. He's the Icon. I guess Goldberg cannot be the man anymore because Becky Lynch is the man. So he's got to be the Icon. The other Icon, the real Icon, is gone. He's erased from history. So anyways, Goldberg, I mean, this was all pretty standard stuff. He said, yes, Bobby Lashley attacking his son was intentional. And he said at Crown Jewel, he's going to intentionally break Bobby's freaking neck. Lashley came down, said it was a misunderstanding. and he's not going to ruin his suit and beat up Goldberg. He wants an apology. And he said he would give Goldberg the match at Crown Jewel, but on one condition. It has to be a no-holds-barred match. And Goldberg, like a kid on Christmas or Hanukkah, he got on his knees, so happy, so thrilled. He says that a no-holds-barred match is a license to kill. And he said at Crown Jewel, Lashley's next, and he's dead. The music played for Goldberg. This actually was not a bad promo from Goldberg, I will say. It was better than most. Lashley cut the music. He said that Goldberg cannot kill the Almighty, and if Goldberg's son gets involved again, it will not be a misunderstanding. Then all of a sudden, we had the Hurt Business jumping Goldberg, but they got beat up for their troubles. They got taken down, and Goldberg stood tall. We had our next round of draft picks. Karrion Kross is on Raw. Humberto and Angel Garza are now on SmackDown, which is fine. I kind of wanted to see them versus the Mysterios, though. I'm a little bit let down about that. I was looking forward to that, and, well, it's not going to happen. Alexa Bliss is staying on Raw. We'll see if she gets a character makeover, if she's going to go back to her old self. And then Cesaro is staying on SmackDown, which Cesaro, I think, could have benefited from moving. You know, he had the feud with Reigns, and he really hasn't done much since. Although, now that I think about it, Sheamus and Cesaro, they're both on SmackDown. Maybe we get the Bar reunited? That would be cool. Hamp Connell with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Hamp. He says, you know something, ladies? You're a lot like Christmas trees. You smell good, you're pretty, but you never feel special until Hamp Connell plugs it in and lights you up. Thank you for that, Hamp, with a little random-ass super chat in the words of Val Venus. We had Seth Rollins backstage, and he was super hyped up. Like, this dude must have had 5 cups of coffee because he was all hyped up. He was wearing Becky's sunglasses, and he was just so happy, so excited, so over the top. He said he doesn't give a shit, and this is what he said. He said shit because he watched NXT and realized shit can be said now on USA. So he said shit. And he said he doesn't matter who's stepping up to him. He's going to do his thing. He's the man, blah, blah, blah. Well, not the man, but the Messiah, the best guy in the company, whatever he said. We had the New Day versus Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. And Cedric and Shelton were beat up from Goldberg, so they did not fare too well in this match. Xavier hit the flying elbow and pinned Cedric. Xavier Woods did point to a king sign earlier. Xavier for king, posed with it. And then he started yelling into the camera, "Crown me, crown me." They gotta make this dude the king of the ring. You gotta have it so Xavier gets his big moment. But I feel like it's gonna be somebody lame. Like, who would be a lame king of the ring? Trying to think. Jackson Riker, maybe? Nah, they wouldn't give it to him. I don't know. I'm not gonna think about it right now. I'll wait till I see the actual names for the tournament. So anyways, Street Profits arrived and basically just had a big celebration with the New Day. Then we had what we thought was going to be Randy Orton versus Omos. Orton called Omos a big bitch, and that's when Styles and Omos arrived. And AJ basically gloated, saying that they're going to end RK Bro, not RK Blow. And Orton attacked Styles. Riddle went after Omos. And it came down to Randy Orton and Omos staring down each other. Randy Orton then hit the RKO to Styles and then fled the ring. So it was, the announcers were saying it was mind games. The whole segment was just silly, kind of a waste of time. You know, they got a match coming up, and this feud is past its expiration date, but they're dragging it out longer. We had a recap of NXT 2.0 with Toxic Attraction. So they're still advertising it. Still trying to get people to watch. And then we had our final round of the draft. Carmella is heading to Raw. And Corey Graves basically had an orgasm there on the spot. We'll get to hear him praise Carmella every week now. His real life squeeze. Caleb Jacobs with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Caleb. Says Sheamus should win the IC title and become a Grand Slam champion. He might do that. I could definitely see a Sheamus Nakamura feud. I feel like that is very much something that could happen. We had Ridge Holland from NXT move to SmackDown, and poor Ridge, he got like no reaction whatsoever, but he's another guy I figured was probably going to be called up. You look at the guy, he's pretty bulky. And this one was a big surprise. This was one of the few surprises of the draft. Gable Steveson has been drafted to Monday Night Raw. Yes, the Olympic gold medalist from this year, who's barely had any kind of wrestling training to my knowledge and hasn't even been in NXT, is going to Raw. So they must really think that this guy can pick up wrestling, professional wrestling, very quickly. I was surprised by that one. I figured they would have at least put him in NXT, but maybe they feel like, I guess, an Olympic gold medalist being in NXT is beneath him. I don't know. I was shocked. And finally, the final pick, Sami Zayn to SmackDown. I feel like this was just done so Sami can come out on TV and bitch about being the last pick. I think that's the whole reason that this was done. Otherwise, they would have just made him a free agent or announced him on Raw Talk or something like that. And people are saying maybe he's going to be the next Kurt Angle. Darren mentioned it. The thing is, Kurt Angle actually did spend a little bit of time in WWE developmental, did some dark matches, and he got a little bit of training before he actually debuted on television. Well, that's not entirely true. He did technically debut like early '99, but it wasn't until Survivor Series when he officially became part of the WWE roster. So we had our main event, Charlotte versus Bianca Belair. For a first-time match, man, I did not care about this. I had little to no interest in this. You know why, guys? Because, angle alert, you just know. As soon as they get in the ring, Becky Lynch's music hit, it's pretty much SmackDown. Literally, it's the same thing, only it's Charlotte in the ring instead of Sasha Banks. So I was just done with the show. Like, I did not care about this. Becky was on commentary being really obnoxious, not in a good heel way, in a I want to turn off the TV way. She's doing rhymes, saying she doesn't need to flip around. She outsmarts everyone. And it just totally took away from the match, too. Like, I couldn't even enjoy the match because of her on commentary. So just the whole thing was a mess, in my opinion. Charlotte escaped the kiss of death and hit a spear, but Bianca kicked out. And then finally, Bianca was able to hit it. But guess what, guys? DQ, because that's what they do. Becky pulled out Bianca Belair, causing a disqualification. Again, reinforcing me not caring about this match because I thought it was going to end in a DQ, and why invest Why take the time to care about something when it's just going to end in a DQ? So, yeah, the boring old DQ. And then Sasha Banks showed up and attacked both Becky and Bianca. So, literally, this was a carbon copy ripoff of SmackDown. Only Charlotte and Sasha Banks swapped places. On SmackDown, it was Charlotte interfering after the match, attacking everybody. This time it was Sasha. So, very lackluster, very flat ending to Raw. Raw was kind of boring. Like, the draft picks, pretty predictable. A few surprises. But nothing that made me go, oh, wow. Like, nothing on this show. Like, just wasn't very good. So I'm giving it a flat C. It was okay, but did not get me very hyped for the future. I will say that much. Goldberg, going back to earlier, Goldberg was maybe the highlight of the show. I hate to say it. So let's see what you guys thought in the chat. Well, you guys kind of liked Raw. 23% A, 34% B, 28% C, so it's kind of mixed reviews, and 16% D, but a small majority of you did give it a B. A lot in the chat room giving it a C. I don't know if I'm an influencer or not. Maybe I am. Michael Wayne with a C. The Game is on 100 with a C. MVP Kev says C, boring at times. Darren G and Matt Helms and Martin Cruz all give it a C minus. Israel Diaz with a D. And Tic Tat Tat with a B minus. Anthony says B minus for boring. Well, there you go. All right, guys. That was the 2021 draft. It was fine. They made some good moves. Ricochet is a good move. A couple other ones are good. Some of them are practical. Not very surprising or anything, but it was fine. We'll see how things go. Again, it doesn't really matter if the writing doesn't change. It doesn't matter who's on what show. It's going to be Raw's going to drag. Raw's going to be hard to watch. SmackDown will be better. It's a 2-hour show. You got Reigns on SmackDown. Not much is going to change. But we can always hope, right? Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I appreciate your viewership and support as always. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com. You can check out the draft results over there too. And I'll see you all next time. Take care, everybody. Enjoy your week.